Good evening. I, Ankit Vaish, welcome you all to the Right Circle, organized by Prabha Khaitan Foundation in association with hospitality partner Amara Hill Queen, Hindi print media partner Dainik Jagran, and the Ehsaas women of Mussoorie. This event is held under the gracious patronage of Shree Cement Limited. The Right Circle, an initiative of Prabha Khaitan Foundation, serves as a vibrant platform within the Foundation's literary events. It was created to bring together authors and readers of English literature in a close, engaging, and informal setting. Each session is thoughtfully centered around the life and works of the featured author, culminating in an interactive dialogue with the discerning audience. Starting its journey from Jaipur, the Right Circle now has conducted sessions across India and even overseas, including Oxford, Birmingham, New York, and Oslo. For today's The Right Circle, we welcome author Aishwarya Jha. She will be in conversation with Isha Gupta Vaish, Ehsaas woman of Mussoorie. A hearty welcome to you both. Before we begin what promises to be a fascinating conversation, let me take a moment to briefly introduce the Prabha Khaitan Foundation. Prabha Khaitan Foundation is a non-profit trust based in Kolkata. It was established by the late Dr. Prabha Khaitan, an eminent literator, philanthropist, social worker, and industrialist. Prabha Khaitan Foundation began a glorious journey of encouraging literary and cultural heritage back in the 1980s. Guided by the philosophies and policies of the founder, late Dr. Prabha Khaitan, the foundation has achieved stellar heights in creating a cultural capital through landmark initiatives and activities. It's been a continual journey since then, and all its initiatives have become landmark events that enjoy a unique identity and a niche audience. We are elated to share the three-time Grammy Award winner Ricky Cage, the mastermind behind the anthem and the signature caller tune of Prabha Khaitan Foundation, has curated a number of remarkable musical pieces for the video invites of our events. The Foundation's social media platforms and communications across India and overseas. The music of the month for September is "The Magic of Today is the Science of Tomorrow," a musical piece that reminds us never to lose our childlike fascination, to learn, and to never stop believing in miracles. To raise awareness in the community, we highlight one pressing social issue every month. The cause of the month for September is Empower Minds, Illuminate Futures. In commemoration of International Literacy Day, celebrated annually on 8th September. Now, allow me to introduce you all to the guest author for today, Ms. Aishwarya Jha. Aishwarya Jha is a writer, designer, and entrepreneur from New Delhi, a mentee at the Asian Women Writers Program. Her poetry, short fiction, and essays have been published in numerous literary journals and an oncology at Oxford University. She has also written, directed, and starred in a plethora of one-act plays, which have been performed around the world. Aishwarya lives with her family and an army of dogs. The conversationalist for this evening is Isha Gupta Vaish. She is a successful professional and environment enthusiast, a hotelier, and the Ehsaas woman of Mussoorie. Without further ado, I request Isha to kickstart the conversation. A gentle request for everyone to keep their mobile phones on silent. Over to you now, Isha.
Thank you, Ankit. A very good evening to all of you. So luckily we have a warm day today After so many days, we get to see the sun. And welcome Aishwarya to Mussoorie, to the Queen of Hills.
Thank you so much.
And very warm welcome again to my prestigious, wonderful audience. Thank you so much for being here today. So Aishwarya, before we start, we delve into your journey so far. So a cliche question it might sound, but who is Aishwarya? As in, we know you are a writer, of course, and an entrepreneur, a designer, an actor, director as well, a poet. But we would really love to know who is Aishwarya behind the scenes, like a regular day maybe, and as a person, because I read your book, there's a mention about the main protagonist. She finds herself, like, who is Arya? She comes across a situation in life where she asks the inner self. So who is Aishwarya?
I think that's a very difficult question to answer succinctly for anyone. I think on a day-to-day basis, what I would like to feel is that I'm someone for whom doing the right thing is very important. And as you mentioned, the book and this idea of there not being a gap between what you think, what you say, and what you do, that's very important to me. And I feel like it's something which is increasingly rare in our world, where a lot of things are about projecting something, thinking something else, saying something else. So that for me is very important as a person. On a day-to-day basis, you will usually find me looking out for beautiful things like my protagonist Arya, because I'm always very moved by beauty. I always like to see beauty around me. That's very important to me. And you'll usually find me being oppressed by my dogs. As my intro said, that I live with an army of dogs, and I spend a lot of time attending.
How many dogs, if I may ask?
We have 7 dogs. So yeah, it is. So as you can imagine, dealing with them is pretty much a full-time job. But there are many things that interest me, and that I've always wanted to do. As you can see from my bio, I've not just writing, but I've done theatre, I've done plays, I've done acting, I've done directing. I worked in management consulting. I worked in the beauty and wellness sphere with luxury fashion, lots of different things. So I guess I'm just interested in a lot of different things, and I try to do my best.
I can see when she mentions that she loves beautiful things, so that's a pure reflection of the beauty you can actually see in you.
That's very sweet.
So, as you mentioned that you are wearing many hats actually, and we've seen a little bit of through our research that you're a corporate honcho, I would say. So you've been working in various fields. So from starting with Hermes, and then you're writing for Brazil as well, and many things. So we would like to know a little more about your corporate journey.
I don't think I've ever thought of myself as a corporate honcho, I have to be honest. I started working with Hermes, the luxury brand, when I was 19. I did my college from LSE. I did their international program because I wanted to work at the same time. And I really believe that the best learning is when you're working and when you're in that situation and you have to, just sort of find your feet. That's when you learn. So I started working with Hermes when I was 19. And obviously at that age, I was very starry-eyed about, this luxury brand and luxury fashion and this and that. And when I started working there, then I realized that it's not very glamorous behind the scenes, not just Hermes, but anywhere, it's behind the scenes, it's not necessarily exciting, but it's not what it looks like from the outside.
Corporate is corporate.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think I had the privilege at a very young age of realizing that I didn't want to leave a traditional life.
It really excited me. How come at the age of 19?
Well, I got this opportunity. I met someone introduced me to someone who was working with Hermes, and I said, I'm so interested. I used to write to random stylists and magazines and editors and say, can you offer me, can I intern with you, can I do something with you? Because I've always had this thing that, I want to go out there in the world and do things. I don't want to just sit behind a desk and read a textbook. I mean, of course, that has its place and I like to learn things. But I always felt like, oh God, time is running out. I want to be out there. I want to be doing things.
In a country like India, have an education policy where we have to, score good, be at par.
Yeah, and I don't know how much learning that involves. It's just about, like ratta maro and just like give your exams. So yeah, so I was introduced to someone who worked with Hermes, and then she was kind enough to find a position
for them.
No, I wasn't writing. I was a fashion associate, so I had a lot of different duties behind the scenes. I used to manage their working inventory, which is of course the big thing at Hermes. And I used to study their trends, what was selling well, what wasn't selling well, doing a lot of customer relationship management, lots of things like that. And I did have the opportunity to continue in the company. And I was, my boss was very happy with me, and she said, if in a year or two we can make you head of this department and this, that. But I realized very early that I didn't want that life, and I didn't want that thing of come to office in the morning and sign in, and then what time are you leaving and what time are you going for your lunch break and how many hours are you putting in and this and that. I mean, I think some people really thrive in that kind of environment, but I knew it wasn't for me because I had always been more independent. Like even with my studies, I did LSE's international program, so I was used to studying at my own pace, doing things on my own. So then I realized that life wasn't for me. So whatever I've done in the corporate world after that has been more like of my own, I had my own company and things like that. So that suited me better.
Wonderful. And actually, I would say it's the matter of conditioning because, I feel personally that yes, there's less beauty in the corporate culture. So hence I think I landed up here. So as I was going through your profile and a bit brief research about you, so I got to know that your schooling. So usually we would get into one school and then pass 12 from there. But you surprisingly you have a very different, very kind of schooling. As you mentioned, like Aishwarya has been to Mirambika School, which is in Delhi, but which is as you mentioned, it's an associate of a school in Puducherry.
Yeah, actually it's part of the Sri Aurobindo Ashram. It's their free progress school. So I don't know if a lot of you are familiar with that, but their original one is in Pondicherry, but they have one in Delhi in their ashram as well.
And then you went to Canada for a couple of years, and you've been multicultural, you've been across borders. So can we assume that the author in Aishwarya is a outcome of that kind of setting?
Well, I think for any author, whether they're writing fiction or non-fiction, it's always a result of your life and your experiences, right? Because whatever you're writing, whether you're writing fiction or non-fiction, you're telling a truth to the world. So there's always a lot of you and your own experiences and obviously your own outlook in whatever you write. So definitely in whatever I write, I think all my experiences, whether it's my schooling, whether it's living in different places, things like that, I'm sure that there are seeds of all that in there. Even if it's not like, a direct, like, okay, this is my autobiography and this is where I've lived and this is what I've done. Maybe one day. Not yet. So yeah.
Oh, we really wish you love to study that. So you've done poetry and you have now written fiction. So what is your take? What thrills you more?
That's a tough one because I think that in a way they're very different, poetry and fiction, because in fiction, at least when you're writing a novel or even when you're writing a short story, you have a lot of space to get your message across, to tell your story. You have more time. With poetry, and that's what I love about poetry, even when I read other people's poetry, is when in that short, those few brief lines, you can have this bam impact. It's like, oh wow, those brief lines, those few words have captured something so monumental or something so impactful. So I think, it's not that I can choose between the two and say I have a favorite, but I definitely think that writing poetry helped me with my fiction, just as writing plays also helped me with writing my novel.
Okay, and about your stint with One Art Plays?
So that actually started, there's this festival called Short and Sweet. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. It started in Australia and then they started having the festival in different parts of the world. So they had it in Delhi and in Bombay and Bangalore and a lot of places for a few years. And I got involved as an actor. And, because I used to really enjoy acting for the stage and things like that. And then I saw, because in this festival, basically you have 10-minute plays. So you have an evening of 10-minute plays. And the quality is uneven. Sometimes you sit through things where you're like, oh my god. And sometimes you're like, wow, in 10 minutes, look at what they've managed to do. So it's nice because it gives a platform to compete newcomers as well as very established theatre professionals. So when I got involved with that, and I saw people my age, or a lot of people who didn't have so much of a background in theatre, they were writing these plays and all. I was like, oh, maybe I should give it a try as well. So I wrote my first one-act play, which is called Meet Cute, because I always loved romance. And that went on to be really successful, and it was performed. It's been performed, and I've lost count. Honestly, it's been many years, but I think it's 10, 12 cities around the world that it's been performed in. And then I found it very addictive, so I wrote many more of them. And like I said, I think I learned a lot from writing those one-act plays. It was a great experience.
Wonderful. And your profile also mentions that you are a mentee with the Asian Women's Writer Program. So I think many of the budding authors here and even the readers would like to know, how is an author garnered through the Asian Women's Writers Program?
But unfortunately, I think the program is on a hiatus right now. So unfortunately, I can't direct you to the program to apply there. But I came across it on some group that I was part of on Facebook, and it's a really great program because basically they have a whole bevy of very, very established professionals from the publishing industry, mainly in the UK, some in the US as well. And you're invited to submit an extract of 5,000 words or something, I don't remember at this point, and a synopsis and all. So this was for my second novel. I was just starting to work on it at that time. So I submitted it, and I got your first novel also through... no, that wasn't through the Asian Women Writers Program. So this was for my second novel, which is not out yet. I was lucky enough that an editor at Simon & Schuster in the UK, she really loved the extract from my second novel, and then she talked to me about it, and she encouraged me a lot, and she sort of guided me and helped me shape that manuscript.
That's great. So now, since we are on your author's journey, writer's journey, so let me tell you, the book is being endorsed by celebrities like Twinkle Khanna, Sonali Bendre, Sonam Kapoor. So they've been often posting about Aishwarya's book of late. And so definitely we know that's something really interesting and worth the read. So about the book particularly, how much of research went into the book? How long did it take you to finally come with a final outcome? Were there any real life inspirations? Can you see Aishwarya around in the book?
Well, so the book took me, it's a dual timeline novel. So one timeline is in 1995 and one is in 2018. So I started writing, I wrote the timeline separately. So I started writing the 1995 one, I think around the second half of 2018, and maybe in around 6 months I was done with that. And then in
that was perhaps I think easier because we are living in that era.
Yeah, and then no, but that was the 1995 era. So, but that was also easy for me because I have a lot of nostalgia for the 90s. I mean, my brother and I talk about this so often, that how much Delhi has changed since the 90s, which I'm sure is true for all cities and all towns. Even I've been coming to Mussoorie and Dehradun since I was a small kid, and I can see how much it's changed. So I wanted to write something to capture that era, which I felt was so many things were sort of slipping away from us. It really was, and it was, again, like when you look back as a child, I didn't feel like, oh, it's such an exciting and wonderful time to live in, because as a child, you're always looking for like, oh, the next big thing and what's going to happen, and life is going to take me here, it's going to take me there, this, that. But when I look back, I realized it was such an idyllic time in so many ways, to not have this burden of social media, and to, where I always say that we were amongst the last last generations to be allowed to have a childhood, a proper childhood, where it was about like, oh, you go out and play, a lot of it was about make-believe things and just reading and just, having a proper childhood where you're not like looking at a screen all the time. Of course, we loved watching TV and we were so excited when Cartoon Network came into India and things like that. But it was a different time, and I wanted to capture that. So that took about 6 months. Then I think I only worked on the second timeline when 2020 happened and COVID hit, and of course all of us were locked up at home, and I was like, okay, if I don't finish this now, I'm never going to forgive myself. So so then I worked on that, and then I had to bring the two stories together. As for how much of me is in the book or the inspirations for the book, like I said, of course, I wanted to capture the 90s and this era. But my biggest inspiration has always been my mother, because we've always been very close, and she's always been like all in all to me, and I always say that everything I've learned or everything I know is only because of her. So there's a lot of her in the book. She's a guru, she teaches Vedanta, so you can see that that is a very important aspect of the book as well. So I think that's the biggest
because there's a lot of cross-cultural mentions. So it's not a typical Indian setting, yet a typical Indian setting, I would say. And then it explores Delhi, one of the favorite cities of most of us. And yes, it has
a lot. I'm surprised to hear that.
No way. Yes, we all are. We have our stories with Delhi. So, and let me tell you, it has a lot of mention about Uttarakhand, our beloved motherland. So, would you like to talk more about Uttarakhand and your association so far, since you mentioned that you've been to the Mussoorie and around and even far up in the mountains? So, how are you associated with Uttarakhand, as in any of your experiences and your love for the place, or maybe the hate?
No hate, definitely. Like I said, a lot of it is because of my mother. So she's been bringing us to the mountains and to lots of different places since we were children. She used to lead retreats here and things like that. So I remember Landor, for instance, from when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and I just have this vision of Landor in my head where it was so quiet at that time.
It's very different now.
It is, which is very sad. But just of this like fairy tale kind of place, where I thought, oh wow, I'm going to find the magic faraway tree here, because it's just these forests and it's quiet and these old cottages. So I have a lot of love for Landor. We spent time in Mussoorie. I remember going to Kasmanda. I remember seeing there was a room, I don't know if they still have it, where they had all their hunting trophies and all the taxidermy like tigers and all, which obviously were very scary but also exciting as a kid. And Rishikesh, which is of course a very important part of the book, where I've been fortunate enough to go with my mother so many times. And again, Rishikesh is a place which seems like there's this very commercialized spirituality there, and it's so chaotic and congested, and you feel like you can't turn a corner without somebody trying to sell you something or somebody trying to lure you into something. But because of my mother, I've been able to see a very different side of Rishikesh, which is what is sort of under the surface of all this chaos and all this madness and this commercialization, and just the incredible power of the Ganga and the Himalayas. So it means a lot to me. And I feel sad. I know I'm not from here, and you guys are all from here and all, but even for me, I feel such a sense of sadness to see so much of that magic sort of being diluted by, so much over tourism and, too much building too many things, this, that, the other. So I again wanted to bring out that side of Rishikesh.
To the extent that yesterday I saw an advertisement, there's a sundowner party kind of sunburn kind of party in Rishikesh. I mean, that was
I find it strange because I'm just like, why would you go to Rishikesh for that? You can be in any city, anywhere. You can have your sundowner, you can have your alcohol, you can do whatever. Some places are for something else. That's how I always felt about this area.
It's totally commercial, sadly. So is Mussoorie and Landor.
And Landor is very surprising to see, I have to say.
So I read the book, and it's a soft romantic novel, and it touches different concepts of love. So starting from love at first sight, and then this filial love between the protagonist and the parents, and then I would say finding a lost love. That is the majorly novel all about, and then also there's the concept of these days the trending concept of self-love. And since you mentioned that through your mother you went to Vedanta and spirituality, so and also from your schooling with Ambika, I think they also teach you about spirituality a bit. Not really.
Not much.
Not really. And few of your lines say we can never give up love, but we can give up attachment. Things that weigh us down, control, anger, ownership, and so many things. So these are all along the lines of spirituality that I found in the book. So is there a connection between spirituality and the new age concept of self-love?
I think that actually there's no connection between
This
what.
is very close to my heart because I think I'm somewhere on these both parallel roads, I would say.
I think the term self-love, the way that it's bandied about these days, I don't really agree with it because I don't think that there is some sort of crisis of self-love. I think everyone loves themselves. I think there is no one we love or care about as much as we care about. Who else is every thought and feeling you care about as much as you care about your own? And even in terms of loving other people, since I study Vedanta, so my guru has taught us that in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there's this beautiful exchange where he says, the husband is dear to the wife for the wife's sake. The wife is dear to the husband for the husband's sake. The child is dear to the parents for the parents' sake. And the parent is dear to the child for the child's sake. We love people for our own sake. We love them because they bring us joy, they bring us happiness. Tomorrow, if someone you love is having a problem, you won't like it because you'll feel upset if they have a problem. So I don't think that there's this crisis of self-love the way that it's projected these days. I think if we're talking about love and attachment, that's a very different thing, and that's something where again I think that I'm lucky that I've seen my mother and learned from her what love really is, and how to really give that endless kind of love, but not in this calculated and like, okay, these are our roles and this is your duty and this is my duty kind of way. I think that definitely these things are getting a bit lost in the way the world is today. And of course, if we're talking about romantic love,
I think love as a concept on a whole is getting lost because it's
definitely
like a self-love. But yes, parents are giving less time to kids, and kids are giving less time to parents, and then being with friends is just about drinking maybe, and rather than spending quality time.
Yeah, I think that I fully agree that everyone should treat each other well, and there should be boundaries and things like that. But I also think relationships are about give and take, and maybe this idea of like, this is my line and don't cross it, and I will go no contact with you if you do this, and you are toxic for me, and this, that, the other. In some ways, I feel it's gone too far, like let's say with parents and children, parents are not perfect, children are not perfect, but those are some relationships which are irrevocable, they can't, like, you can say what you want to your
parents. I think the influence is, as far as my understanding goes, the influence is more because of the social media. Because we are spending more time rather than being with ourselves or with our close family and friends. We are actually spending more time on social media. So I think self-love finds its point over there.
Yeah, I think so. And as far as romantic relationships go, of course, we're living in an age of dating apps and situationships and ghosting and swipe right and swipe left. So I wanted to write something which is a very different kind of love story. And as you said, it's not. I think it's a story about many different kinds of love, not just between a man and a woman, but also between parents and children, between friends, people who care about each other, and just the different manifestations that just love can take. Really that unconditional love.
Spirituality also somehow teaches self-love, isn't it?
I think it teaches a very different kind of self-love, because the self that we talk about in Vedanta, for instance, not this person, the self that they're talking about in Vedanta is something else altogether. So it teaches you to know yourself in a way that you can't, like on a superficial level, like just going about your daily life. And yes, definitely, in our scriptures, there is the swadharma where you pursue your own growth and you pursue moksha because that is your basic right. But I think that's very different from how it's sort of been twisted, maybe in a more Western way these days.
Right. It's being sold like that. So we got to know that you are currently setting up an Indo-File. That's a new venture to bring to the fore unique and exciting cultural experience. We would like to know much more about it.
So yeah, Indophile is a brand new thing that we've been talking about for a while, and we're just sort of getting going with it. We always say that we're so lucky in India. We have such a rich heritage, so much art and music and dance and cuisine and all that. But I feel that there's so much that is not highlighted. Like I've been lucky enough to travel to many different parts of India, and I've seen so many different kinds of instruments, different kinds of
team, and I feel that not enough people know about them or appreciate them. So Indophile is really sort of like a love letter to India, to sort of bring these, lesser known things to the fore, to introduce them to people. Like there's an instrument called the Jal Tarang, which I also mentioned in the book, and it's such an exquisite, the music that it produces is so exquisite. It's like almost cosmic. And most people don't know about it, or they've never heard it, or they've never seen a performance. And that's just one example. So I really would like to be able to celebrate all the beautiful things about India in all its diversity.
So are you like
of India.
setting up some cultural experiences platform?
Events, culinary experiences, lots of things like that. So
okay. And when do we get to get into one?
Well, hopefully soon. Watch this space.
Wonderful. And perhaps we at Prabha Khaitan also are somehow, we are your cousins in that matter.
Yes,
so like
absolutely.
We are, like who would imagine Pator and Arse being served for a high tea?
Yes, and listening to Tagore's music and things
definitely,
like that.
Definitely. So, I would really want to ask you, though it might sound a little personal, but what are your future goals? So, another book, yes, we got to know about it, that you are in the process of writing another book. And also the Indophile, the business person in you is developing. And plus you have lots of corporate hats on you. So, how do you see yourself in the next 10 years?
10 years, such a long time.
Really?
I hope I've written many more books in the next 10 years. I'd like to write different kinds of books, not just literary fiction, but I'd love to write children's fiction. I have a lot of ideas for that, thanks to my dogs. I'd love to write non-fiction also sometime.
Okay.
So let's see. And yeah, with Indophile, I would really like to be able to do something, to do my part, to celebrate India, to celebrate our country. I also do some design work, so I also do interior design. So I take on select projects for that. So I hope to do more of all that in the future.
Oh, wonderful. That's really, really interesting.
And sorry to interrupt you, but as far as the second book is concerned, I hope that all of you will find it interesting because it's set in a fictional mountain town. And I had a lot of fun creating that, and I was able to draw from my time spent in lots of different mountain towns, hint, to create this fictional place. And yeah, maybe when
How far have you gone in Uttarakhand?
Up to Dev Prayag, basically. And then in Himachal, gone to a lot of places, gone to Lahore and Spiti also, and lots of time in Manali, Mashobra, lots of places.
Okay.
So we've spent a lot of time in the Himalayas, and then of course towards Darjeeling and all as well. So it was a lot of fun to draw from all these different mountain towns and places that I've visited. And maybe when you guys read the book, you can try and spot if there's anything familiar.
I'm sure there would be. So talking about the book again, very beautiful book, soft romance as I mentioned. So usually the books I have read so far, some books I've already found they're on the OTT or the media already, film industry. And it has always been the culture, I think, so far, ever since the starting of the film industry, be it Hollywood, Bollywood. So books have always been a major inspirational part for a director or a producer. So do you see your book, The Scent of the Fallen Stars, getting into the, finding its way in Bollywood or Hollywood?
I hope someday. I think that's a goal for a lot of writers these days. And when I write, I also see my stories in a very cinematic way. And interestingly enough, a lot of people have read the book and come to me and said, oh, I can see this as a movie.
Actually, those are my words, yeah.
So maybe because of my experience in theatre and doing some short films and things like that, so maybe my vision is just like that.
Because usually a book like this can be made into a beautiful OTT series. Like people are really into K-dramas. I could somehow related to K-dramas and...
Well, I only see the first one as a movie, the second one as a series. So let's see.
Okay, great. Wonderful. So is it a thriller, the second one?
Yeah, it's a gothic fiction novel. So it's got a
Okay.
bit of a mystery, a bit of thriller, and also about relationships, but in a different way.
So when we talk about, finding your way, as now you're an author, maybe you're a film writer in future, but do you think, what is more exciting, as in writing a book or writing for a film?
Well, see, I haven't written a film yet, so I'll have to get back to you on that. But I think they're different and they're exciting for different reasons. But I love writing fiction. I really enjoyed, it's funny because when you're writing, then you're constantly thinking about, oh, will I get published? And that's your goal and that's all that you're working towards. But after being published, and of course being published is it's a wonderful experience. It's a roller coaster. One day you think everything is great. One day you think, oh no, everything is going so badly. But it's a lot of fun. And but looking back now, I also feel that in a way, the best time was just when I was writing, when it was just me and the story, me and my characters, because that's something that it's hard to capture again, because then when you start promoting the book, then you start talking around the book, but when you're writing, then you're really in that world of that story and those characters.
So you became Arya.
Well, in a way, like they say there's method acting, where people a lot of times go overboard and they sort of try to embody their characters even in their real life.
Yes,
I always feel that,
with actors, no?
yeah,
Most of
with
the time.
fiction, for me at least, it's like method writing. Because I feel when I'm writing anything, I sort of, you really have to be in your characters' heads, and you have to sort of, okay, how would Arya speak now? What would Will say? What would he think? What would Leela do in this situation? So you do sort of get very lost in that world.
Right. So really interesting. I mean, your journey and your multifaceted approach and the dynamics of your life. Really been interesting talking to you.
It's been lovely talking to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So not taking too much of the time, my personal time, but yes, I would really want the audience to have their Q&A. The house is open. Yes, ma'am. We'll start with Ma'am Nidhi.
Just a comment. What you felt about Rishikesh? When I was a kid, I used to go to Rishikesh to an ashram. And it was so nice to hear somebody else speaking about it. And we all here, most of us, all of us feel bad at what's happening to Rishikesh, what's happening to Mussoorie. And it's so heartening to hear it from you. Because we always think we are the ones. We are overreacting.
No, thank you. I'm always there, like on the sidelines with you, because I really feel very bad about it. And there's this part in this book when Arya comes to this ashram in Rishikesh, and then she meets somebody at the ashram who tells her, oh, just across the river, this site just across the ashram is going to be turned into some resort and this, that, the other. And Arya says, oh, but isn't this land considered holy? And so this girl tells her, yes, welcome to India, where everything is holy and nothing is sacred, because because we're always also destroying the places that we consider holy or the places that mean so much to us, and it is very sad. I completely agree with you. Yes, it's so lovely, that area, and I know
The chaos. You just said what I mean. What we all feel.
Same, we all mirror your opinion. Ayush?
Yeah, so really appreciate writing such a book and wearing all those hats. There's a question that I basically ask all the fiction writers. How strongly do you believe in your stories to be truth someday?
I believe in it very strongly. As I said, even if you're writing fiction, you're telling a truth to the world, right? And fiction also comes from what you observe about the world. And I really feel like whenever you're writing, it's like a message you're sending out into the universe, because writing is such a solitary pursuit. So it's sort of like, you're sending a signal out into the universe somewhere. Hello, is anyone there? Is this resonating with anyone? Does anyone feel the same way that I do? So it's definitely, I think that there's a lot of truth in it. And sometimes fiction is the best way to tell a truth.
Has ever been a deja vu from your own novels in your real life?
I think like I said, a lot of things in the novel are drawn from my own experiences, in real life. But it's also nice to have some creative license when you're writing a novel. So maybe some things you can fix which you can't fix in real life, or something can be, a little more enchanted than it is in real life.
Right.
So yeah.
Great.
Writing is a solitary activity, isn't it? As is reading. And even with so many facets to your personality, you are engaged in so many different kinds of activities. Does that become distracting, or do you think that they play a complementary role to your writing?
I would say both. While writing, I do think sometimes when I'm really, I feel like, it's like you say, oh, that news has come to you, that, oh, right now I have to write this. And when I'm in that space, it can get distracting to have other things going on, because then, as I'm sure any artist will tell you, whenever you're working on something, like when you're possessed by that idea, then that's all you want to do. And maybe you're not such a fun person to be around for your family and your friends, because you're just like, your head is somewhere else altogether. So at those times, yes, it can be annoying to have to work on other things and do other things. But then at the same time, as we've discussed, what happens in your life also plays into your writing. So both things are there.
Thank you. And just a small comment, you talked about the crisis of self-love. So don't you think that it is more of a narcissistic condition, and that is what is really pathological, isn't it? And we are living in an age of narcissism.
I agree, and I think, like we discussed, social media really plays into that, because everything is about, oh, let me take a selfie, let me talk about myself, and everything about me is so interesting. What I ate for breakfast today is so interesting, and what I went and met my friend and it's so interesting. And maybe sometimes it is, maybe sometimes it isn't. But I do think social media does encourage this kind of self-focus or self-obsession, which may not be that healthy for all of us as a society.
Yes, I think social media is somehow at places misguiding, or maybe making us confused with self-love and selfishness and narcissism. Yes. I mean, that is the way it is. Next question.
So really appreciate the fact that, as I could sense, that you're a very self-aware individual and very focused and very connected to the roots as well. So, for somebody starting on their self-awareness journey, any tips or anything that you would recommend,
self-awareness journey in what way?
Getting to know oneself only, because at the end of the day, when you're writing as well, when you have a very clear idea of who you are and where you're coming from and what exactly is that that you want, is that is when you go from point A to B. But but otherwise, for individuals, just starting on their path, how do you?
I think one easy trick is which my mother always taught me, is look at yourself as a third person. Try and see yourself as a third person. And then there's a writing exercise which can really help you in this, because sometimes when we have writer's block, what we do is we set a timer for, let's say, 15 minutes, and you take out a notebook and you just write whatever comes to your head without stopping for 15 minutes. So you can choose anything, like supposing something happened at work today and you're hassled about it or whatever. It's very cathartic and therapeutic also to do this, that just let it all out on paper. Don't think about it. Don't think, is this okay? Is that okay? Or is this true? Is that true? Whatever. Just write it, write for 15 minutes and then read it back. Maybe it'll tell you things about yourself that, you didn't know earlier, but it's very important, because it's hard to be objective about yourself. And I think that's very important in order to do the right thing, in order to know yourself at all.
Great. So, do we have another question? Okay.
As we wrap up this intriguing evening, I, Ankit Vaish, want to sincerely thank our guest author, Aishwarya Jha. Your thoughtful perspectives and engaging discussion made the session truly captivating and enriching. I would like to express my gratitude to Isha Gupta Vaish for her excellent moderation. Thank you both for making this evening so memorable. I would also like to thank our wonderful audience for the enthusiastic participation and attentive presence. On behalf of the Prabha Khaitan Foundation,
I extend heartfelt gratitude to hospitality partner Amara Hill Queen and Hindi print media partner Dainik Jagran. The foundation promotes cross-cultural understanding and appreciation. A mosaic of cultures forms the backbone of a nation, contributing to its vibrancy and richness. This is to support our ongoing efforts to foster unity and appreciation of the rich cultural heritage across India's diverse states. Highlighting the relevance of the same, today we are pleased to felicitate the author with a Dhokra handicraft from Bengal. Named after the Dhokra Dama tribe of West Bengal, this ancient bell metal craft produces unique artifacts, accessories, utensils, and jewelry. Practiced in West Bengal and neighboring states like Odisha, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and Kerala, Dhokra is known for its seamless, joint-free brass pieces created using the lost wax casting technique. These artifacts are cherished by art lovers for their distinct aesthetic, primitive simplicity, and captivating folk motifs. I would now like to call upon Ms. Nidhi Bahuguna ji to felicitate our author, Aishwarya Jha ji. Nidhi ji doesn't need an introduction to the Mussoorie people.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, before you all leave, please take a complimentary copy of The Scent of Fallen Stars by Aishwarya Jha. You can get it autographed by the author herself. Thank you and good night, everyone.